Well, we'll kick off then, I think, G.
Let's do it.
Yep. So today's webinar is all about the 7 steps to success in corporate partnerships. We're going to present for about 30 minutes and then take questions for the remaining 15. And quite a few did come through with the registration, so we'll kick off with those. And if there's more time, we can take others. Again, if you do have a question, pop it into the chat box and we'll get to it at the end. We are recording today, but we will close off the recording when we get to question time. Great, well, I'm going to hand over to G.
Lovely. Thanks, Hale. So before we begin, we would love to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional custodians of the country that we're on and we're zooming in from today. We recognise their continuing connection to the land and waters of this beautiful place, the Yarra Valley, where people do indeed wear their pyjamas to the supermarket, but that doesn't matter. And acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to any First Nations people who might be joining us online today.
Brilliant. Thanks, G. So before we dive in, a little bit about us, if you don't know who we are. So I'm Hayley Cavell Jaspers, and 29 years ago, I founded a company called Cavell & Co. And I established myself as a matchmaker between companies and charities. In that time, I've built over 55 partnerships for numerous companies, including Disney, Vodafone, Seek, Mondelez, AMP, and many more. During this time of working with corporates and when nonprofits were pitching to my corporate clients, I noticed how unprepared they were. And many behaved in a really desperate manner, using fundraising language and pretty much giving away the farm. And I decided that, if this matchmaking, this corporates and charities working together for mutual benefit, if this was going to work in Australia, I needed to upskill the nonprofits. So back then I started running workshops and they evolved into masterclasses. And in 2006, I developed a modular training toolkit called the HeartSmart Toolkit. Then it got to 2019 and I met the lovely Georgia, and she'll tell you a bit about that.
So in 2019, I was working for a global development charity as well as in my own kind of marketing agency. And one day I just happened to be in the little country town where Hayley lives in Warburton in my mum's clothes shop, helping her order stock. In walked Hayley, we struck up a conversation, and long story short, we decided to get her training into an online format. That became bepartnerready.com just a year later. So corporate partners help nonprofits and social enterprises do more of what they do best, which is, of course, change the world. We enable change makers to win those corporate partners, and we do that through our online training and implementation program called bepartnerready.com, which features 7 steps, 7 modules that you implement in your organization as you learn. One thing I want to make clear here is that we are corporate partnership specialists. We're not fundraising consultants, and our programs and the tools contained within it are tailored for both the Australian and New Zealand market.
So before we take you through the 7 steps, it's really important that I share 3 critical distinctions with you. It's the 4 Percys, timing, and cakes and muffins. So let's firstly go to the 4 Percys. So there's not just one purse within the corporate sector that contains money, resources, and expertise for nonprofits like you, but there's actually 4. And of course, when I say purses, I mean budgets.
So purse number 1 is the human resources purse. So if we think of a big consumer company, this will help put it into perspective. So let's everyone put your thinking hats on and think of maybe Microsoft. So why would the human resources purse holder of Microsoft want to partner with a nonprofit like you? Well, given it's going to be about people, it's usually about building pride and engagement and reducing turnover. And unless you have massive events that need heaps of volunteers, this is a very time-intensive purse, and there isn't a lot of money to be found here. So why focus on it? Yet what I've found is that many nonprofits still do. A fantastic example of this, which Siobhan, you might be familiar with, is from Aotearoa, New Zealand. And it's the partnership between the company BayRF and Conservation Volunteers New Zealand, where the BayRF employees regularly volunteer their time to help protect and revegetate the Papakura stream. Hope I'm saying that right.
And then the second purse, which you'd all be very familiar with, is the philanthropic purse. So that is normally a foundation within an organisation. So the Mazda Foundation, the AMP Foundation, and so on. So again, why would the Microsoft head of foundation want to partner with a non-profit like you? Yes, you can type in the chat box if you'd like, but I'm going to tell you, of course, about societal impact. And this is the purse that you all know how to pitch to. So whilst there might be a large chunk of money sitting in a foundation, there could be, several $1 million, it's often sliced up into smaller grants. It's normally focused on a particular area too, for example, financial literacy or children or health. So if you actually do fit, then that's great. But if you don't, that purse will not open for you. So this is a good purse for dollars, but it's usually tied income because it's normally tied to a program, event, or service. But I would imagine you'd want more untied funding, yes? So if you want more untied funding, put yes in the chat box. A good example of the philanthropic purse in action is an example between the Vodafone Foundation, who formed an amazing partnership with Garvan in Australia. That's Garvan Medical Research Institute. And they created this app that you may have heard of called DreamLab. This app was then embraced by New Zealand and then the UK, and now it's available around the world. So it's yet another innovation that's come out of Australia. The app harnesses your phone's processing power while you're asleep, and it crunches complex cancer research calculations 10 times faster than they could do it alone. Now, there's already been some fantastic and important breakthroughs in cancer research, which this app has helped to bring about. And for Vodafone, their foundation's focus is using technology to improve health outcomes. And as I said before, it's quite common for organisations to have a particular theme for their foundation.
So purse number 3 is the CSR purse, or the corporate social responsibility. Sometimes this purse can be called the ESG purse, the sustainability purse. It tends to change its name every now and then. It's large and it's growing fast, and there are big dollars for nonprofits to be found here. So again, going back to Microsoft, why would the CSR manager want to partner with a nonprofit like you? Of course, it's about achieving their CSR goals. So in the case of Microsoft, it could be about inclusivity, human rights, climate change, building trust around technology. So if your organization fits within these areas, you may have a shot at unlocking the budget within the CSR purse. One thing to make really clear here is that by partnering with a charity, that is not achieving CSR. It's just one small puzzle piece of the CSR strategy that a company will have. Another thing to note as well, and some of you might be familiar with this already, is that companies often align themselves to specific UN Sustainable Development Goals, so the SDGs, within their CSR strategy. So again, if you fit one of those goals that their CSR strategy is aligned to, then you will have a shot at potentially unlocking that budget as well.
A good example of a partnership that's come out of the CSR purse is a partnership I brokered some years ago for Disney. And you probably haven't heard about it because often if it's the CSR purse funding an activity, it's not something that they shout about from the rooftops, because it is about corporate social responsibility, not marketing. So this is a partnership between Disney and Big Brothers Big Sisters, and they enabled Big Brothers Big Sisters to create an online mentoring platform for young people at risk. And they even put many of the Disney characters into the platform so that when kids logged on, they felt sort of safe that their favourite characters were there. The fourth purse, and this is the largest purse, is the marketing purse. Many nonprofits invest their time and focus on purses 1 and 2, so philanthropic and HR, when in fact purses 3 and 4 are far more lucrative. So let me ask you, why would the head of marketing for Microsoft want to partner with a nonprofit like you? And you're most welcome to type into the chat box. What is it that they're wanting in return? And most importantly, when you talk to the purse holder of the marketing purse for Microsoft, what kind of language do you need to use? This is why it's so important to know the purse holder in the first instance. So Microsoft tagline is "Be what's next," and that reflects their ambitious approach towards next-gen technology and future thinking. So what kind of a charity would fit with that? A good example of the marketing purse in action is ME Bank and the Breast Cancer Foundation. They have a campaign called Buck It Forward. Yes, I said Buck It Forward campaign, where customers contribute 1 cent every time the card is used. It doesn't sound much, but that has generated over $1 million to date. This is what you would call a traditional cause-related marketing campaign. And in the last year, ME, obviously it's worked very well for them. In the last year, they've launched a range of different cards benefiting different causes, from Australian wildlife conservation to Beyond Blue. So this is KitKat and Are You OK?, which I know did run in New Zealand. So for our friends over there, hopefully you'll be familiar with this, but this ran a big campaign during COVID. And this is a less traditional form of sort of cause-related marketing. This was about behaviour change, not necessarily raising money. So it doesn't always have to be 5 cents goes to a particular charity. So KitKat became the chit chat partner of Are You OK? And for Are You OK? They got their message out on 6.5 million packs during September 2020, at a time when Australians were in severe lockdown mode and mental health issues were going through the roof. So it was a brilliant and creative way for Are You OK? To reach people in their homes, but also to, achieve their mission, which is to get this message out to the market. So what's the key to unlocking each purse? Well, it's the job title. Mark here is the purse holder for Nestlé's marketing purse. Again, you need to use the appropriate language to unlock this purse. And for marketing, it's everything from differentiating a brand, helping the brand to project a particular message or positioning. Sometimes it's about increasing sales, but marketing is definitely the language and the conversation you need to have with that person. And anything like an ask, fundraising language needs to be removed completely. So using the right language is obviously really important. And when you know the purse holder that you want to approach, you can use the right language to make the right pitch. If you use the wrong language with a purse holder, it will shut tight very fast. So reserve all that fundraising language for fundraising. Understanding this one thing will help you enormously in your corporate partnership strategy.
And don't worry if you didn't capture all of that. We do have an infographic with all the details, and I'll provide it in the follow-up with the slides.
So the second distinction is timing. Timing is critical. You have to approach corporates at the right time. Do you know when that time is? Happy for you to put things in the chat box. It's not when you need the money, or sometimes when you've lost a sponsor, or when you're just ready, or when the board tell you to go. It's when corporates are discussing their budget. And yes, many of you have put in the chat box February, March. So in Australia, about 70% of corporates operate on a July-June financial year. So the best time to approach is 3 to 4 months before, so February, March. These tend to be the Australian private and public companies. Then there's about 20% of corporates who operate on a calendar year, so December, January. So the best time to approach them is August, September. These tend to be the big global companies like Microsoft. So if you're an Oxfam or a Save the Children, you're a global nonprofit, then most of your prospects would sit within this time frame. And in New Zealand, I know for a fact that there's another financial year, which is March. And because Christmas gets in the way, you would still approach those companies probably in the August, September.
Mm.
So how many of you actually approach corporates in these optimum times?
Mm.
And the third distinction is cakes and muffins. So hopefully, after hearing about the four purses, you'll realise that a corporate partnership is not a philanthropic gift or a donation, nor is it corporate fundraising. The other area that change makers often confuse is the difference between a partnership and a sponsorship. They're both funded by marketing purse, but they're often different. I use a cake metaphor here because people tend to like it, even though it might make you a little bit pecky. So imagine you're a corporate and you go into a cake shop. You'll see lots of pre-made cakes with predetermined ingredients, and there's a clear price point. So a muffin, for example, might be $5.50. So that's a sponsorship, because if you had an event that you were looking to get a sponsor for, you would know the price point of that sponsorship. You'd know the assets contained within it, i.e. the ingredients, and you've probably packaged it up. So that's a sponsorship.
Mm.
The ingredients are fixed. From a non-profit perspective, the funding is tied because it's usually a campaign, event, or program. So the money goes to that actual thing.
Mm.
But if you're a corporate and you want something a little bit more bespoke, so a tiramisu or a fancy lemon cake for a special occasion, maybe, you know, a cake that has multiple layers, complex flavors and ingredients and lots of berries on top, that's a partnership. And for a non-profit, that is where the untied money is. Because if a cake maker makes you a special cake, there is going to be more margin for profit. You're going to be paying extra for the extra love and care and attention and that little bit of extra rum used in the tiramisu. So you might order muffins for a get together with mates, but for a long-term marriage, you want a really special cake, and that's a partnership. Georgia?
So there are 7 steps to get you to success when it comes to corporate partners. Each step is vital. They all fit together like a giant jigsaw puzzle. So we're going to take you through those steps now. And what I would love for you to do is to think about whether you've actually already done this within your organization. And if you haven't, could you do it?
So the very first thing you do before the 7 steps is to set an intention, because they say, as they say, if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up somewhere else. This exercise is about setting a corporate partnership's intention that is a direct reflection of your vision, mission, and purpose, because a corporate partner that isn't aligned to that isn't one that you want.
So for grassroots bully prevention charity, Bully Zero, doing this helped Janet, the CEO, to demonstrate to her board that a corporate partner wasn't just a cash cow, that a corporate partner could actually help drive their strategies and plug the gaps. So you start by populating this 1-page daisy flower. And once you've captured that, Janet was then able to articulate 3 clear aspirations as part of her intention that would align directly to her vision, mission, and purpose. And you can see them up here on the screen now. So you can actually give this exercise a go. We offer it as a free trial at our website. And again, I'll give you the link in the follow-up email with the slides. So if you haven't already seen it on our website, you can have a go and have a look yourself.
So having set the intention, you then need to work through a process to achieve that intention. The first thing that you do is a SWOTer. So this is a good old SWOT, but with an action list, which is the A. This helps you get clear on what's going to help you achieve success, i.e. your intention, and what's going to be a potential barrier. It remains a living, breathing document which you update as you work through the remaining 6 steps. It's specific to corporate partnerships. It's not like a generic SWOTer. Not doing this means you could go into a corporate partnership strategy unaware of what could impede your success or trip you up. It could be the reason you fail before you even get on the field.
The second step is module 2, which is the assets inventory and valuation. So this is where you capture a list of everything you can potentially offer a company, from the key people and relationships you have in your organization through to fundraising and marketing materials, events, campaigns, and so on. Going back to the cake metaphor, not to make you even more hungry, these are the ingredients you use to make your partnership cake, as well as for muffins, i.e. sponsorship. These are not for selling off individually. Once you've captured everything that you could potentially offer to a partner, you then use a formula that within Be Partner Ready, a team of media experts have invented for us, so you can place a dollar value on each asset. This way you know what your assets are worth based on market values, and you never undersell them, which is super important. So partnership implies mutual benefit. So what do you have to offer a company? If you don't do an exercise like this, how will you know? The great thing is you can offer what you already have. You don't have to go out and reinvent the wheel just to create new things all the times for new partnership opportunities. The other thing about doing a process like this is it gives you immense power in negotiation, because the value is based on market value, not guesswork or not what you just need to cover the costs. So as I mentioned before, we actually include a DIY formula within our program to enable you to value your assets. It's called the PH formula.
And this is unique to bepartnerready.com. This is an example. This is a group that I worked with a couple of years ago called School Fun Run. And once he had valued his assets, he couldn't believe that he had actual assets already in his pantry worth $2.5 million. And this really enabled him to, first of all, realize that he had something that was valuable, and he could put a tangible dollar value on his assets. And he was able to secure a partnership with Nature's Way very quickly. Step 3. Now you'll notice in each of the steps there's a date there, and that's because each module is a monthly module. So in August, prospects list. So this has 4 parts. We start with a think tank to identify companies and brands that would have a natural fit with your organization. And there's brand fit, values fit, geographic fit, and so on. This is about identifying corporate prospects that have the potential to invest marketing dollars due to an alignment. This, of course, is the biggest purse. Now, we are actually running a workshop in April, end of April, where you can learn this bullseye prospecting process, as we call it. So Georgia will send you some information with the follow-up resources.
So as Hale said, that's part 1. That's the suspects. So you start with the think tank, and that generates about 300 company and brand names. Then we go to part 2, which is where we help you to hone this down to about 50 prospects. So that's your prospects list. Part 3 is all about profiling, which is doing deep research on the best prospect in each category. And then part 4 is determining your hot list. So who you're going to actually go out and proactively pitch to, and at what time of the year as well.
So a good example of this is Greening Australia, who have quite a few partners actually, but most of them are very much tied to planting trees. So they're sort of tied income, and they were really keen to start to develop some brand aligned partnerships where it was untied. And the first time they went to market after completing our program, they went to Sukin, which obviously is a brand that's all about nature, and they partnered with them on a particular program called the Refade Project. Step 4 is credentials presentation. This is where you develop a compelling 15-minute presentation that has both substance and emotion. It tells your story, but also it presents a smorgasbord of everything you have to offer. So imagine the cake shop again. It's like walking into a cake shop and seeing that glass counter with all the different yummy offerings. This is about provoking a conversation about what the corporate might want so that you can then move to the next step, which is a tangible partnership discussion. Part of this step includes identifying a good video that explains the problem that you solve, so it brings the cause to life. As I said before, you need substance and emotion in this presentation. There is no ask at this meeting, and there is no proposal at the first meeting, because you really don't know enough yet in order to put forward a proposal that they're going to say yes to. So this shows the corporate that you're serious about a business partnership. It presents what you have to offer and the value of that offer.
So one of the most critical slides in the credentials presentation is a synergy chart. This shows a potential partner how you align, i.e. the reason that you're meeting them in the first place. This is what it looked like for Bully Zero when they pitched to TikTok. And one of the great things about doing the research that I mentioned you do as part of step 3 is that you can craft a synergy chart like this pretty quickly. And because you have a deep understanding of the company and their challenges from doing all of that research, it really helps to kind of bring that to life in one slide. And you can win a partnership with just this slide when you're talking to the marketers.
So if you're going to do this, the company is always first. So this is what we've discovered about you. This is where we align, and here are the synergies in the middle.
Beautiful.
Step 5 is partnership model. Now, this is when all the work that you've done through modules 1 to 4 really come together in what we call a corporate partnerships model. This again has 3 elements. First of all, a brand valuation process where you place a dollar value on your brand for a corporate who may want to borrow your brand to make them look good. We call this the BFF, brand affiliation fee. This then becomes a minimum guarantee figure, not a fixed fee, and it's per annum. Now, again, we're running a workshop in April where you can actually walk away after 2.5 hours with a dollar value on your brand, and Georgia will send you some information about that with the slides. As part of this module, we create a graphic, a model graphic, and it really is sort of like an evolved version of your intention, and it explains to corporates how you like to work with them. And then below that is a set of guidelines or rules of engagement, which is an internal document which explains to everyone within your organization things such as, you know, will you offer exclusivity, who you will partner with, who you won't partner with, who's going to manage the relationships, and so on. I'm not sure how you would negotiate with a company that wants to borrow your brand if you haven't actually valued your brand. And often what happens is that the company will tell you what they're going to give you. So they're ultimately dictating the value of your brand. Here's an example from one of our star students from a year or so ago, Save the Children Australia, New Zealand, and this is her model. So it's very much the equip, deliver and transform model, and you'll see there that her minimum guarantee is right there in the middle. So you don't shy away from putting that on the table at the very first meeting. I don't know how many of you have had meetings or coffee meetings with corporates where it all sounds really positive, and then, you know, 3 months down the track, you start talking about money and they go, oh, we don't have that kind of money, and you've wasted all that time. So this process is about saying, if you want to play in a sandpit with us, this is the minimum guarantee. And it's actually, for corporates, it's not a lot of money.
So for an organisation like Pet Rescue, who have a single website that matches rescue animals to new owners, they had no events or programs to sell, only their brand and their campaigns. So doing this brand valuation was a game-changing step for them. And in 2007, when they first kind of entered into our world, or Hayley's world, they'd secured corporate partners before, but their annual turnover was around 200,000, and they had 3 staff, but were rehoming over 20,000 pets a year.
So having already secured pedigree before they met us, they then embraced the program and they went on to secure Petstock and Woolworths, both of whom are not just providing their minimum guarantee of $150,000 per annum, but they're helping to raise awareness of the pet rescue site. They give pet food donations, they fund research, they do a tax time gifting campaign, all mission critical stuff. And both of these partnerships have been running for over 5 years now. Woolworths alone last year was worth $400,000 in pure cash. So we love Pet Rescue, and I particularly love Pet Rescue because I've actually rescued 3 cats from them, my latest being Willow. And as you can see, he is as obsessed with himself as I am with him. So after step 5, we have finalisation and review. So this lands in about November. This is when you have a chance to have a bit of a breather, but it's also the chance to get everything approved by management and board, your creds preso, your assets valuation, your brand valuation, your guidelines, and so on. You then have the confidence to go out to the market and negotiate, knowing that your board are not going to take months to review a proposal that you put forward because they pretty much approved everything as it is. Step 6, which is in the new year in January, is when you come back fresh as a daisy and you dive into module 6, which of course is the approach. Now, this is not when you actually approach, so I don't know why we called it the approach, but anyway, it's actually when you draft kick-ass emails to your hot prospects in readiness for sending to them at the right time, which of course, 1st of February, boom, is when you send the emails. Yep, I think I've said enough about that. And then step 7 is securing a partner. So this involves getting a brief out of the prospect and then putting in a tailored bespoke proposal that actually meets their brief. So it's actually going to contain things that they want because it's in response to a brief. So if you don't get a brief out of a company, it's very difficult, as I'm sure many of you have discovered, to actually put a proposal forward. And also in my world, having worked with corporates for many years, if they're not willing to sit down and spend an hour writing a brief, it says to me they're not serious. So don't waste your time with them. So the 7-step process is contained in an infographic. It's free at our website. And of course, Georgia will send to you with all of the materials after. So just as we wrap up, and we'll go into question time in a mo, let's look at the F word, failure. Why do nonprofits fail at corporate partnerships? Well, having trained up and spoken to thousands of change makers over the years who have tried and failed, we have determined that there is one thing that has them fail, and it is readiness.
They go to market before they're ready and they take shortcuts. And we actually define readiness as there being 2 levels. So there's partner readiness, which is what we've highlighted today through our 7-step process. But there's also an important level of readiness that underpins success, and that's organizational readiness. Now, we won't go through this today, but I'm actually going to share an infographic that details the key readiness factors as it relates to your organization, being organizationally ready for corporates.
So we said at the start that this is a 7-step process to success. And if you look at our website, you'll see numerous organizations from large groups like Oxfam, Fred Hollows, Murdoch Children's Research Institute, etc., who have won multi-million-dollar partnerships using this formula. Our latest star student is Bully Zero. She signed up 5 partners, which has contributed $2.6 million, slide, $6 million over 3 years in pure untied cash. The partners are helping her to raise awareness. One of them is TikTok, obviously have a huge audience, and they've also helped her digitize her programs, which has added a new income generating line as well. So this process will deliver results if you put the work in.
Absolutely. So hopefully we've given you a few things to think about. We've got a list of resources here contained in the slides, so you can click on them to access what it is that you need when I send you the follow-up email.
And I think we've mentioned this, the brand valuation formula is something that we teach as a standalone tool, and you can register. There's still a few seats left for our 11th of April workshop there. Finally, the readiness. Again, I encourage you, if there's anything that resonated with you today in this webinar, please do the readiness Q&A if you haven't already. I know many of you on today have done it already. It really is a good thing to do. Not only does it give you a score out of 100, so it's either green, which is obviously go, amber, or pink, which is kind of red, not ready. But it gives you a really good conversation starter to have with management and board. Takes about 10 minutes to do, and you'll get a score out of 100. So I think we're almost there. Shall we go to questions?